Hey ladies, it's Ariane, and I've been waiting to do an update until I have a different camera. Right now everything that I do is in HD and it takes seriously almost a full day to upload, and I don't know how to edit it, and so I've been waiting until I get a new camera, and I've been asking for my husband for one for my birthday and for Valentine's Day. He's finally about to get me one. He was actually gonna get me one yesterday, didn't work out. So hopefully in the next day or two I'll have a new camera and I can do a lot more updates. But as of now, we're just gonna do this. So anyway, so I apologize. I am, as of today, well, today's Thursday, so I am almost 4 weeks postpartum. So baby Evelyn is almost 4 weeks old. Almost. On Saturday, she will be 4 weeks. And today is Thursday. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. So anyway, I wanted to do a breastfeeding update because a lot has kind of happened with that and it's been kind of overwhelming for me. And so I wanted to go ahead and give you an update about that. And then later I will do like a postpartum update and probably a baby Evelyn update at some point. But like I said, I want to wait till I get my other camera. But so if you paid attention to my last couple vlogs when I talked about briefly the issues that we were having. So basically, baby Evelyn, from the moment she was born, she would not nurse. She wouldn't latch, she didn't care. Even trying with a nipple shield, her jaw is really stiff and we've been seeing a chiropractor for it. It has been making huge improvements, but in the beginning, her jaw was really stiff. She wouldn't open it. And so even with the nipple shield, it was really hard to get the angle right to where I could get the nipple shield in her mouth. It just took so much control and so much work that the only way really to get her to eat was a bottle. And so for the first day of her life, I just worked at home trying to get her to nurse and trying to get her to latch. Just without the nipple shield, just trying to get her to latch. And I understood that, you know, most babies don't really get much to drink. Their stomachs are really so small that they don't really need much at all in the way of liquids. Hence, that's why we moms make colostrum in just small amounts, is because their stomachs are still so small. They've never been used before. And so, you know, for the first day, I just really worked on it. And I knew she wasn't getting anything. But after about 24 hours, I talked to my stepmom, who's an actual lactation consultant, and she said, yeah, after 24 hours, you might want to start getting some liquids in her. And then I did some research online and I started hand expressing my colostrum. And so using just like a little medicine cup, I would hand express my colostrum and just drips, and I would feed it to her through a syringe. So like I would put it in a cup and then I would syringe it out and put it in her mouth. And I was getting like up to 1.85, you know, those little medicine syringes. I think it was like 1.85 mils. And so every 2 hours I was trying to get as much colostrum as I could. So I knew she was getting something. I think after day 2, you know, actually it was even after day 1, after the 24 hours, I gave her a little bit of formula because I was concerned about her getting liquids. So I gave her a little bit of a bottle. I think I only gave her maybe an ounce, maybe even less actually. I might have even been like, no, it was probably less. It was probably about a half an ounce of formula. And so by day 2, I did the same thing, was just pumping colostrum. Same thing about day 3. And then on day, and you know, I was talking to my midwife, I was talking to my lactation consultant. We were trying to do everything that we could to get her to nurse. I took her in when she was 4 days old and took her to the lactation consultant. Lactation consultant pretty much said I was doing everything right and I just needed to keep trying and probably start pumping. And day 4 is when my milk started to come in. And when my milk comes in, it doesn't just like, I don't get engorged. It's just a very slow process. It starts to come in and then it increases over the next couple days. So my milk started to come in at day 4. And so I started pumping, and I was pumping every 2 hours, and I was only honestly getting, at first I was probably getting a half an ounce in total. It's like a quarter an ounce, both breasts. And I was giving her that through the bottle. And so I pumped for, I would say the first 2 weeks. Well, I think I pumped it for about 2 weeks and was pretty much giving her 90% breast milk. Whatever I pumped, I was giving her, and I was trying not to supplement. Every night before she went to bed, I would supplement. I would give her maybe, I don't remember how much formula, just a little bit to help her kind of sleep through the night. But that was the only time I was giving her formula. And so after 2 weeks, I started getting concerned because I had gotten my milk to increase a little bit. It had increased to above a ½ ounce total. And so I started feeling like she needed to really be more supplemented. And so I started giving her formula at every feeding. So I would, whatever I would pump, I would give her, and then I would top it off to where she had 2 ounces of formula, 2 ounces total of milk, whether formula or breast milk, whatever the ratio was. So I'd give her 2 ounces every 3 hours. And so I did that for about a week. I started really stressing, and it was really hard for me emotionally, not being able to nurse, not being able to feed her properly. Both of my daughters before, I was able to breastfeed without any problems. Never had to supplement formula, was able to work out all the breastfeeding issues to where it wasn't a problem. And it was really hard for me to not be able to do that and to wonder, how long is it going to take? How long am I going to be pumping? I have 2 older children, and so for me to pump every 2 hours, it was a lot of work. I used a hand pump for a while, and then finally somebody gave me an electric breast pump as a gift. So I used that. I was taking fenugreek, 4 capsules 4 times a day. So I was taking 12 total. And even though maybe my milk was increasing, it was very minor. And it got to the point where I wasn't able to get more than 3/4 of an ounce every 2 hours, which isn't so bad, but I just knew it wasn't enough. And so I was already having to supplement with formula. I was really having a hard time with it emotionally. Feeling just like, how long can I do this for? Is she ever gonna latch? Because like, I don't want to be one of those, I just pump, she doesn't ever nurse directly from the breast. I was only really wanting to pump until she could nurse from the breast. But then I thought, what if she never does nurse? Or how long is this going to take? Or how do I do it? Because there's so many factors into trying to teach your baby to latch when they're used to a nipple, a bottle. You have your letdown, you have the baby gets frustrated because the milk isn't coming fast enough. I don't have a powerful letdown, and I didn't feel I was making enough milk to really satisfy her. And when I was trying to get her to nurse, she would spend, the whole time crying and crying and crying and crying. And then I'd have to set her down, and then I'd have to pump while she was crying and crying and crying. And it was so much, I felt so bad for her. I was feeling really bad for me. I was feeling really bad for my other girls. I was really having a hard time with it. Kind of my last ditch effort was I went and talked to my family doctor, and I asked to get on a prescription for Reglan, and I mentioned this. It's Reglan is what it is. And I didn't look up the side effects or anything like that, but I started taking that. And I noticed, I didn't think it was the drug, but I was really tired and I felt horrible. And I didn't connect it to the Reglan, I just connected it to all the stress that I was going through, everything that I was going through. I was miserable. I was feeling really emotional about it, and I started really debating. After the first day, I took Reglan twice, I think, that night. You're supposed to take it 3 times a day, so I took it twice the night that I got it. And then the next day I pumped, in the morning, and I just felt horrible. And I finally was just thinking about it a lot and debating how long I wanted to do this for, and if I should just quit and accept failure and not overburden my life with this, because it was consuming me. And I felt I had done everything I could. I was praying and I was praying and praying that she would latch, and I was praying to know what I should do and if I should just give up. But I'm not a quitter, and I'm definitely not. I hate to be a quitter when it comes to nursing. I never have been. And so after really thinking about it a lot, I finally came to the conclusion that I needed to just call it quits. I needed to be done. I needed to accept that it wasn't working. It wasn't working with my life, with my girls, with the way that I was feeling. I was also having a hard time eating enough. I don't have an appetite, and we don't really have a lot of easy, quick food around the house. And so I was finding that I wasn't hungry, and if I knew I needed to eat, there was nothing I wanted. And so I felt like my nutrition was also suffering. So I was really stressing about making sure that I ate enough and got enough protein and had protein accessible and had everything accessible. There was just a lot that I was really stressing about. Oh, and the other thing that I was having a really hard time with, and I know this probably sounds really weird, but since I've never been a pumping mom, I've never dealt with this, is having to use a breast pump every 2 hours. And it was a double breast pump. And when my husband was home, it made me really uncomfortable. It made me feel extremely unattractive, disgusting, embarrassed, and ashamed. Like, I don't know, I couldn't be modest while using a breast pump. It's not attractive to see a woman use a breast pump. And it made me feel very awkward, and already being in a sensitive emotional state and being postpartum and emotional and feeling just not good, doing that was just really humiliating to me and really just miserable, and I hated it. And there were times where I just wanted to go and hide myself in a room while I used the breast pump when my husband was home. And not that he ever said anything or stared or ever made me feel uncomfortable. He didn't ever do anything to ever make me think that I should feel uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't his fault at all. It was completely where I was at emotionally. So I was having a really hard time with that too. Being embarrassed by having to pump and not being able to just be modest and putting my shirt over and nursing a baby. I was also having a lot of just, you know, she would cry